That's my names. I'm the animal lover. I do a lot of content about animals, but today I'll be very specific with a topic on poultry farming. So when I'm just waiting people to join, I'm just a YouTuber from Isibania, not far away from Nyabuhanse. So I usually do content on animals, so that means I'm an animal lover. So when you want to learn anything about animals, just join my channel. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel so that we can learn everything about animals. Yeah. So a lot of people tell me that I'm an animal lover, but I don't have animals. But I usually tell them that one day, one time, I'll be having those animals. So for today, it will be an interactive session where anybody who has any question about poultry farming, to be specific, because today I'll be doing a topic on poultry farming, and I'll be responding to all questions that will be asking. Not only that I'm restricted to this poultry farming, but I'll be covering all topics to other animals. Yeah, if maybe you have a question on other animals, feel free. You can ask your questions so that I can respond to those questions. So I can see here, look at the traveler. Hi too. Look at the traveler. Feel most welcome. Let us keep engaging so that we learn something about poultry. So as I'm waiting for people to join, I can talk some various topic about poultry farming, so that for those who want to venture into poultry farming, at least I can give them a step-by-step guide, so as actually this will motivate them to these specific questions about poultry. So the way I said, I go by the name Farm with Maxwell. So I'll be waiting for your questions down here. I can see Fusion Facts saying hi. Hi too. Welcome on board. So let me just talk something about poultry farming, because we have a lot of people in Kenya, a lot of people worldwide concentrating on this poultry farming, which is a very profitable venture. If anyone who wants to venture maybe into poultry farming, here we are. We will talk a lot of things about poultry farming. So yeah, I can see Forever Humble is here with us. I can see Prince Wiz here with us. Hi to Prince Wiz. So welcome to the board. I'm just waiting questions about poultry, because today I'm going to cover something about poultry. So I'll be responding to questions that will be appearing there as I am waiting for questions about poultry. So that means I'll be covering some things when it comes to that. I'll be covering variety of topics when it comes to poultry farming. What do I mean by poultry farming? This is the raising of birds, especially the chicken. So today I'll be doing something about chicken. If you have any questions about turkey, you have any question about maybe the duck, if you have any question about the guinea fowl, I'll respond to those all questions, including anything that you know it is a bird. So I'll be responding to those questions. So I'll be waiting for these questions about poultry. So let me just dive into poultry farming, so that as I'm waiting for questions, I'll be handling everything about this venture, which is a very profitable venture. Like in Kenya, we are now seeing a lot of people venturing to this poultry farming. It has a lot of fortune, because actually people do this for their sustainability, and of which they are doing very good. Yeah, it is all about feeding and management practices. Then you are there, everything will be working out. So let me ask a question like why poultry farming? Somebody can ask you a question, why poultry farming? Why do people venture to this profitable venture? One of the reasons is this is one of the cheapest animal to raise. Yeah, remember, they just require a small space so that you can have these poultry. In terms of housing, they require just a small unit so that they can thrive very well. Yeah, so we have, like in Kenya, we have different breeds of poultry. to be categorically, we have local, which we call them kienyeji poultry. Then we have improved kienyeji, we have layers, and the last breed that people have, it is called broilers. Some people go ahead and have they have a breed that they call ornamental bird. Yeah, when I'm talking about ornamental birds, they are the likes of silky. We have phoenix. We have a lot of. We have the Bama. It's still an ornamental bird. Thus, a lot of people keep them in their houses. So with that, at least you having an animal, that means an animal is like a family to you. So I'll now dive deep on this specific breed. So when we talk about kienyeji has its own characteristics. One of the characteristics that kienyeji has, it's about it is able to brood by itself, and most of these kienyeji can be left to scavenge outside. And another characteristic that comes from people, they say that kienyeji chicken has a very sweet meat. So somebody can get sweet meat from kienyeji chicken. Then I'll be telling you about another breed of an animal, another breed of chicken that we call actually the improved kienyeji. When we talk about improved kienyeji, that is an intermediate between kienyeji and the exotic one, like the layers. So that means it is their intermediate. What do I mean by intermediate? They lay eggs very well. They adapt to different ecological condition, but now the problem is they don't brood. What do I mean by brooding? Brooding is the act of sleeping on the egg so that they can hatch into chicks. So majority of these kienyeji, improved kienyeji, they don't brood. And in Kenya, to be specifically, we have different types of improved kienyeji, where we have the Kenbro, we have the Croilers, we have the, apart from the Croilers, we have the Saso, where we have the brown Saso and the dark Saso. Then we have even another one, it's called Kari Kienyeji. So all these breeds, they have their specific characteristics, but I won't dive to that unless somebody asks me how to differentiate these different breeds of improved Kienyeji. Then we have layers. Layers, the likes of the Sussex. These are meant for giving eggs. They give eggs, then actually they lay eggs, a lot of eggs. Then people say the brown eggs that we see in the market. Then there is these another one that we call broilers. So basically for broilers, these are meat birds. So that means they reach maturity at around 45 days, slaughtered and being taken to marketplace. What are the white cuckoo called? The white cuckoo, we call them broilers. So that those white cuckoos basically are the meat chicken, yeah? We call them broilers. They are being raised around 45 days. You get that after 45 days they are being slaughtered, then taken to the market. Especially in Kenya, we have them. A lot of them are in Nairobi. That's where we found a lot of broiler. Here in the village, we get that a lot of people don't venture into these broilers because in terms of getting market is very hard. And a lot of people, they have what we call the meat, yeah? Meat about broiler. They are saying that these are GMO breeds, so they won't consume those GMO. So you get that we have a lot of challenge in terms of educating these people here in the village about the broilers. So that means there is a lot of things to be done here. Even in terms of the population who raise these broilers, they are not many. Yeah? You can just find specific homestead, and them getting market for these broilers is very hard. They have to get market maybe from somewhere from Migori, going those other part. Remember, I told you I'm the animal lover. I go by the name Farm With Maxwell, and this is my channel. So let us just ask questions about poultry, then we venture to those specific topics. So I was talking about poultry, so I'll go and talk about feeding. Actually, before even I talk about feeding this poultry, let us dive on how to house these poultry. So when you want to house these poultry, let's say the poultry farming sector, make sure you have a well ventilated house, irrespective of how you build these of your poultry, yeah? Because there are some people who actually see that maybe free range poultry farming is the best. Some of them say that semi-intensive poultry rearing is expensive, and other people usually prefer something like semi-intensive. When I'm talking about semi-intensive, that is a mixture of maybe during the day you leave this chicken to go outside, and in specific time you get that these these poultry they go back to their house, then they're being supplemented with a variety of feed, yeah. For that now we call semi-intensive. That means sometimes they go out, sometimes they remain inside. So those are the systems that we have in terms of raising chicken. Some people go ahead and put the chicken into cages, but for me I don't advocate about caging the birds because they don't have that freedom for movement. I actually tell people that the way humans have the freedom for movement, even the chicken they have this one. I love eating chicken, which is very good, yeah? Even I like eating chicken because this is a white meat, very sweet indeed, and a lot of people like eating this meat. Now the problem me, I don't keep any chicken, yeah, and I'll be telling you why when we are just ending this session, yeah. So a lot of people like this venture, so I was just discussing about this venture. Another thing that I'm going blessing yes, Farmer Isa, welcome. How is Kisi? I believe Kisi is doing well. So today we're just talking about poultry rearing. That is a very profitable venture that I usually encourage a lot of people to do what we call poultry farming, irrespective where you come from. As long as you have hello Farmer Isa, I can see you are around, feel most welcomed. So irrespective of where you are staying, remember poultry just require just a small piece of land. Even you can raise them in the plot where people stay. Like me now, I have like one poultry, so that means I've started venturing to this poultry business, yeah, with a boom, which is something very good, yeah. Let us venture in this poultry farming because it requires less space where you stay, and with that actually we will be realizing something like food security in this country, yeah. So I was talking about how to raise them, yeah. You can get, for me I usually advocate people to raise these birds. Maybe Kaka, do you rear chicken? For me, I don't rear chicken because of actually this venture requires a lot of money, but I don't have capital to raise this chicken. I don't have my compound where I can put this chicken. I just stay in a rented house. But I usually believe that one day, one time, when I'll be having my own compound, actually I'll be raising this chicken. Okay, Kaka, I meant, okay, Isa, I meant, okay, that's good, yeah. Yeah, for Isa, he has said that he is venturing to this poultry farming, which is very good. So I was just talking about the housing system. I was talking about a well-ventilated housing system. Then you have to make sure that it is well drained, and I usually prefer maybe the raised floor. When I'm talking about raised floor, that means that the floor is somehow raised from the ground, so that in between there you have something like a section where you put something like a wire mesh down, so as when they poop up here, it goes directly where somebody can I do the commercial. So that means when they poo, the feces can go directly to the ground, so that means you will get a lot of manure, which is very good. And the reason why you should put it at least in a raised place, it is to avoid dumping, yeah. You know very well these poop from these chicken has a lot of ammonia. Remember, the chicken don't urinate, so that's why I'm telling you, in terms of ammonium levels are very high. So when you raise these chicken, make sure that you put them in such a way that they don't get a lot of problem. So about feeding, I'm now going to talk about maybe feeding. When you are doing feeding to these chicken, make sure that you feed them with a balanced ration. So what do I mean a balanced ration. A balanced ration is a ration that contains almost everything required by the body of these chicken, so that can help them in terms of maintenance and production. So things that should be mixed in the rations include, it has to be having protein. Yeah, protein is a basic thing that these feeds should be having. It should be having something like carbohydrate should be there. It should be having something like minerals. Yeah, so for minerals we have something like calcium, phosphorus. They should be having something like premixes, and we have a lot of premixes in the market. Like I usually tell people, when you're just taking these premixes for poultry, make sure they have two key things that we call amino acid, where we have lysine and methionine. These are the key components that help in production of eggs and the entire thing. So when I was talking about maybe protein, I can tell you the protein sources that we have. For chicken to be profitable, you have to put a number of things in place. Yeah, that's true. When you want to venture into poultry, yeah, you cannot keep only 100 birds, then you expect some profit from that. With me, I usually believe, when you want to venture into poultry, just do it with a lot of passion, that you venture to a bigger number. More than 500, at least you can get profit, but anything less than 500, you getting profit from that is very hard. And you must have finances, because at the end of the day, you will only incur profit once they start laying egg. With no eggs, nothing like profit, because this is a venture that has a lot of you can face a lot of difficulties. So I was talking about feeding. Yeah, sources of protein that we have the soya. We have the soya, we have the canola, we have the sunflower, then we have the cotton seed cake. Those are just some of the protein sources that you can have for your poultry. When we talk about energy giving food, those are carbohydrate. You can have maize germ, pollard, bran. Those are one of the best sources of these yes, droppings are good fertilizer, because when I was saying about this manure, remember poultry, they don't urinate, so that means in terms of ammonia level, yeah, they are good in terms of fixing nitrogen to the soil. Remember nitrogen, ammonium goes actually in hand with the nitrogen. Yeah, so when you talk about nitrogen, it has its own benefit about maybe making the crops leafy. It is a very good fertilizer, and a lot of farmers who do use poultry manure, they get bumper harvests, most of them. So I usually recommend these people to use poultry manure because of some things. Even one thing about this poultry manure, you can some people go ahead and take this poultry manure, so that you can do what we call you can raise maggot from there. And another thing about this poultry manure, some animals like the sheep, some people have seen somebody in Eldoret just taking this manure to the sun. After drying, he feeds them to the sheep. And some people take these feces from chicken and feed them to the pigs. So which means these kind of breeds, let's say the pig and the sheep, they can thrive well. You can integrate the sheep and pig to this poultry farming, because instead of throwing this manure maybe to the shamba, you can give other animals so that they can feed on, and at the end of the day, the nitrogen in it can give these animals a healthy, they will be very healthy. So I was talking about something like feeding, which I've come to almost conclusion. Then I'll dive something about I'll go ahead and talk about vaccination. One of the fundamental things about poultry rearing is something about vaccination. If you want to venture to this farming, make sure you dedicate yourself with enough maybe drugs. I'll tell you some of the drugs that you must be having in your cabinet. So in case these poultry fall ill, you just give them this medication. But the fundamental thing about poultry rearing is all about vaccination. So once you do proper vaccination and you observe hygiene, you won't be having a lot of difficulties when it comes to the rearing these poultry. So I'll just highlight some of the vaccines that are found in the market. There is a vaccine that is being done in the hatchery that we call Marex vaccine, and especially this Marex vaccine attack these chicken. One of the symptoms is something about paralysis. Yeah, you can just get your chicken is just paralyzed. Maybe the neck can be sideways. You can see their legs bending. Some of them are not walking. So that is the effect of Marex. Yeah, and a lot of these Marex are being done. They are being done in the hatchery. So before you buy chicks from any source, make sure they are vaccinated against these Marex. So chicken droppings are very good fertilizer, though short-lived. Yeah, that's a reality. Yeah, when you just give, this is because of the ammonia and nitrogen. Yeah, they don't stay in the soil for a long time as compared to other manure. For chicken, you just put them maybe for a shorter duration, then at least you'll see the fruitful from them. But in long term, they can't really help you. Especially when people are planting, you get them using the chicken manure because it does very well. But remember, just for a shorter duration. Okay, what he was meaning about short-lived, so that means when you place these manure to your farm, within a shorter duration, this manure from chicken will decompose and be utilized by the plants, and they are actually they are not that strong to be in the soil for a longer duration. That is what he meant. So another thing that I was talking is about I was talking something about vaccination. The second vaccine that I usually recommend people to use is the Gumboro. So Gumboro vaccine, actually, the disease that affects when you don't vaccinate your flock against Gumboro, we call it Basa of Fabricius, that affect near the vent region. When I'm talking about Basa of Fabricius, it's just around the vent region of your poultry, and most of the times this Gumboro affects chicken less than 2 months old. Once the chicken is over 2 months old, it can't be infected with this Gumboro. So that's the second vaccination that I usually tell people to use. A third vaccine that I usually recommend people to use is the Newcastle. Yeah, when you're using Newcastle, don't use Newcastle plain. We have Newcastle, that we call Lasota. Then we have the Newcastle that we call the other Newcastle that we usually call it Newcastle plus IB. I usually recommend the first dose of Newcastle. People should be using Newcastle plus IB. IB means infectious bronchitis. There are some farmers who usually complain that my chicken are sneezing, others are coughing, others are having problem with the upper respiratory system. That's because you have not vaccinated your chicken against infectious bronchitis. So make sure when you are doing your jab for your chicken, you use Newcastle plus IB. With that, actually you'll be doing something which is very fantastic. Yeah. Another vaccine that people should put in mind, maybe in the 4th month, in the second month, is about foilpox. Make sure you vaccinate your poultry against foilpox. Foilpox is when you have something like behave like pimples in the wattle. When you see at the head of your chicken, there's something like they're swollen. They are swollen. So make sure you vaccinate against foilpox. And foilpox is being transmitted by mosquitoes, so that means it is mechanically transmitted, and it is a viral disease caused by avipox virus. So make sure you vaccinate your bird against foilpox. The problem, if your bird are being infected with this foilpox, you will be having something like it will hinder the growth rate of these birds. Then immunity will be reduced. So when the growth rate is hindered, so that means you'll be feeding these animals, you don't see them getting big. So some of them will be maybe 5 months old, but they will be appearing as chicks. And remember, when you're a business, you have to do things in the right way. So when you mean business, just do the real business. Another vaccine that you have to vaccinate your poultry against is fowl typhoid. Make sure you vaccinate against that, which is usually injected in the thigh or in the breast. Remember, even chicken have breast. So once you inject those jab maybe in the breast, you are there, you are good to go. Another one is about foil cholera. Make sure you vaccinate your chicken against foil cholera, so which will be very good. So I'll be diving to the maybe management practice before okay, somebody asked a question, is chicken farming easier than let's say goat, sheep and cow? Yes, chicken farming is a very easy venture because your work is just to feed them and feed them. But remember, they require hard work. Yeah. Why do I say your work is just feeding? You must make sure they have feeds. You must make sure they have enough water. Actually, water should be ad libitum. Yeah. So that means they should always be having water in their space, in their area. Another thing why it is cheaper as compared to these others, other one, it requires less space. So what do I mean by requiring less space? So that means where one cow can stay, you can have even 50 birds. Those are chicken in the same space. So that means you can accommodate so many chicken in a small space. Another thing is about maybe handling them. That is about management. You only sweep once, you are done. You don't come there later maybe to milk like maybe say cows. And remember, for cows you have to go to the shamba, plant some crop for your cow and the entire thing. But chicken, actually handling chicken is one of the easiest animal that somebody can venture in. So I was to talk about maybe management practices. Make sure you deworm your chicken, and when you're deworming your chicken, you have to do it actually after 3 months. You deworm. After every 3 months, you deworm. I usually tell people, if you want to be successful in this animal keeping, make sure when you are deworming yourself, make sure you deworm your birds. Yeah, with that, actually you'll be getting something that we call you'll be on the track, because once you know you are going to deworm yourself, go deworm even your animal. With that, at least you'll keep proper records. Another thing is about vaccination. You must be having the vaccination schedule. You must make sure that the vaccines in vaccines handling, we have something that we call cold chain. Yeah, you have to maintain cold chain from the agrovet, because I won't talk about manufacturers. That is the work of maybe manufacturer. From the agrovet, there are some people who don't know what agrovet is. Agrovet, these are the agro dealer shops, or some people call them hardware, where we get these maybe vaccines and the entire thing. So they have to maintain the cold chain, yeah, for the efficient to maintain the efficacy of a vaccine. Make sure you maintain the cold chain. When you are going to buy the vaccine, you go with a cool box so that they can pack the vaccine for you there. With that, you will have maintained the cold chain. To be actually nowadays, it is as if many companies have adopted something that we call they vaccinate their chicken against different diseases at the hatchery. You know, long time ago we were having, maybe it was only Marex alone it was being done at hatchery, but nowadays we have Gumboro is being done in the hatchery. We have the first jab of Newcastle, it is being done in the hatchery. So that means when you buy chicken nowadays, you just raise them for a shorter, maybe for some duration, then maybe you repeat a jab for Newcastle, then you go to foilpox, then you go to other vaccination. Initially it was tiresome because you had to be having and to know the vaccination schedule for these animals. Another thing that I'm supposed to talk about this vaccination, yeah, is about actually just have knowledge on how to mix these vaccines, because like the vaccine, like I usually say, like foilpox, yeah, you inject that vaccine, the wing stab, You can just check how you inject, because I have a script for doing that fowl-pox vaccine. Actually, I have numerous script on vaccination that we should be following. Yeah. Another thing about poultry farming in terms of management is observing hygiene. Make sure your chicken are clean. In terms of biosecurity, what do I mean by biosecurity? You have to make sure that where they are staying, it is clean. You have a foot bath where in their premise, so that means you have to be disinfecting your legs when you are entering to those to the premix. Another thing that I mean with biosecurity, you have to protect this chicken against predators, against rodents, against visitors, because a lot of these rodents, let's say the rats and the entire thing, those, a lot of them, they are the carriers of problems in your farm, because maybe you have observed hygiene and the entire thing. When a rat comes to your compound, maybe a dog from somewhere, that means there is a possibility of those animals coming with some bacteria, some virus load, because we usually have something that we call actually we call them contagious diseases. Yeah, you can actually you can just okay, with this contagious disease, you can just protecting against contagious disease is very hard. You can get that maybe I'll be visiting another farm. When I go to another farm, when those flocks where I've come from are infected, I'll be carrying vaccine to this other side, because I have a scenario where people were doing vaccination. Yeah, people, let's say from Isibania, were doing vaccination from a certain disease to maybe Nyabuhanse and another one in Mabera. You get that these people were vaccinating these animals, but where they were going, they were still being they were being affected with the same disease. So you get that pole pole boss ongea tu pole pole. So that means we have that means that as long as we try preventing these diseases, you get that there are some people, maybe they come to the farm that we call visitors. They come with some certain pathogens that with that you'll get it will be affecting your entire flock. So I'm going to handle something about diseases. So in diseases, we have to actually, if you have a pen and a paper, you can write something about diseases, because I'm going to talk much about these diseases. One of the disease that I'll be talking about is about Newcastle disease. Yeah, this is one of the most killer disease, because you can get that in the entire village. A lot of chickens are dying because of Newcastle, because once they come, yeah, they sweep the entire flock. Yeah, so with that you get that you'll go into losses. So make sure you vaccinate against Newcastle. So vaccinating against Newcastle will help you. Is chicken dropping nutrient exhaust quickly? Yeah, that's true. They get exhausted because that's actually, it is something about nitrogen. Yeah, that's why they do in crop. Maybe in Kiswahili people say that nitrogen fertilizer they are used for kunyunyuzia. So that means they will be putting so that it turns green, and all of a shortened small duration, it will be exhausted to that plant. Yeah, it is just being utilized in a smaller, in a smaller duration. After that smaller duration, the strength will decrease. Yeah. So I was talking about Newcastle. So how can you identify that this is Newcastle? One of the thing, it is called, there is something that we call torticollis. Yeah. Torticollis is when you just get your chicken, the neck is bending maybe upwards or sideways. That is what we call torticollis. Another thing is paralysis. Yeah, you get that when you have a Newcastle disease in your farm, there is something like paralysis. So it interferes with the nervous system. So that is what we call paralysis. Another thing is about greenish diarrhea. You get that when it goes almost terminal, your chicken will be defecating something like greenish diarrhea, and that means it is almost dying. So with that, you get that it will be difficult to treat. Actually, for Newcastle, it is very difficult to treat. The only remedy is proper vaccination. And how do you achieve proper vaccination? Just take vaccines that have been Actually, the cold chain has been maintained. So I'll be handling another disease that we call coccidiosis. So coccidiosis affects poultry, especially the younger ones, but even the older ones get affected. And what is this coccidiosis and what causes coccidiosis? So coccidiosis it is a parasitic infection that is being caused by something like that we call coccid. So this coccid attacks the intestinal tissues in the body. So that means the likes of the smaller intestine, the larger intestine, they all come with their own different challenges depending on the particular interest. None of these above easy or difficult depending on the structure and place of the patient. Yeah. So I was talking about coccidiosis. It is a parasitic infection, and one of the signs that we'll see is a bloody diarrhea. Bloody diarrhea, and another thing is about the chicken just candle. Yeah? They behave like they are feeling cold, but they are not feeling cold because they are disturbed in their intestinal and their tissues are destroyed. That's why when they're defecating something like bloodish. Yeah? So with that, you use something a sulfur-based drug. Yeah, sulfur-based drug does very well for these class of for these coccid. Yeah, we call them anti-coccidiosis. Yeah, the coccidiostat. So make sure once you are hit by coccidiosis, just use something that we call sulfur-based drug. And we have a lot of sulfur-based drugs. One of the sulfur-based drug we had in the market is called Nimerad. Another one is called, actually we have the S-Dime, we have the ESB3, we have the Biosol, we have the Biotrim. So we have a variety of these sulfur-based drug. The one advantage about these coccidiosis, yeah, once you give the medication, actually it is easy to clear it out, and it is very easy to destroy your flock. Another thing that I'm talking about, another disease, is the disease that we call polyram. Yeah, for polyram is when you see a whitish diarrhea in your flock. Yeah, and when you are hit by this polyram, the only remedy that I usually tell the farmers to do is that to clear the entire flock. This is because, yeah, when you have these polyram, yeah, to clear that infection from your poultry is very hard. The only thing that you can do, okay, you can clear it to some extent, but remember, once infected, they will remain carriers. So what do I mean that they will be carriers? This is the reason. Once you clear the infection from that bird, it will the infection will still be there. It will be suppressed, but it will still be there. But when it is maybe when this bird maybe poo outside, it shed that infection. So that means the other flock that will be coming, when these ones are there, they can still be infected with polyram. And these I usually tell people that you have to take your chicks from a reputable source so as to not be having this problem, because it starts all the way from egg. Your egg can be infected with polyram and it will give you a lot of problems. How do we treat this polyram? One of the ways that we treat this polyram is through use of a very strong antibiotic that we usually call enfloroxacillin. Yeah, when you use that drug, you get that there is a possibility of winning that disease. But remember, once infected, even though you have used that strong antibiotic, there is a possibility you'll still be having that disease in your flock. Yeah, so that means when you want to venture to this poultry farming, you have to do it with the passion. Remember, even poultry has a disease that we call, it has a problem that we call infectious bronchitis. Not infectious bronchitis. We have a disease in poultry that we call infectious coryzal. So for infectious coryzal is when you see that is an upper respiratory problem, and it manifests itself when you see one of the eye, it is swollen very wide. Then you see there's something inside that is infectious coryzal. You can see some whitish masses inside the eye. and sometimes you can see them sneezing, coughing, having some water from the mouth. So that is one of the signs of infectious coryzal. And for infectious coryzal, you have to use a very strong antibiotic like the Fosbac, the Nimered, and the entire thing. It is true that if you keep a chicken for a longer time, the meat gets harder to cook. Yeah, that's the reality. The longer it stays, remember, I wanted to say about the older people that their meat is very hard, but that's not the reality. Yeah? So when they stay for too long, remember what keeps those okay, when they stay for too long, their meat now start becoming hard and harder, because a lot of nutrients will be lost. The muscles will now start shrinking and becoming very tough. So that's the reason why they become harder. Even the other, maybe the minerals, yeah, in their bodies, like calcium. We have even calcium in the muscle. So that means they will be mobilized maybe to other reserve. So that means it will be very hard. Yeah, they will be very hard. The meat will be very hard. Yeah. So I was talking about diseases, about infectious coryzal. I was talking about medicine that you can use. You require very strong antibiotics like Fosbac. Actually, some people even use 30% oxytetracycline to treat those actually that infection, because it is very hard to treat. And predisposing factors of these infectious coryzal, one of the predisposing factor is all about about hygiene, yeah, especially the ammonium levels. It actually the ammonium levels, it impacts these disease. So make sure you observe hygiene so as to keep these. The advantage nowadays, we have a vaccine for infectious coryzal that people usually use them. So that means once your chick maybe reaches at the age of around 2 to 3 months, yeah, you inject them with that vaccine and you will be free from infectious coryzal. And that's it. So I'm just waiting for questions so that we can answer questions here before I go maybe about egg production. Yeah. So let me handle something about feeding, where I'll just go categorically maybe the types of feed being fed to this chicken. Yeah. When I'm talking about feeding, yeah, remember when you're feeding this chicken, a lot of people mess around, yeah, because you get that somebody is keeping kienyeji or keeping improved kienyeji, and you still, maybe for meat purpose, you go take something that we call a broiler starter cramp. Remember, yes, this broiler starter cramp will make your what are the common predators that feed on chicken? So the common predators are, one of it is eagles. We have the auk, then we have mongoose feed on it. We have the cats. Even the cats, domestic cat, even the dogs can feed on this chicken. So there are numerous of them. Even human predators. Yeah, you get that human predators come steal this chicken. They go and maybe feed in their homes. Others still go sell them. So we have a lot of predators when it comes to chicken. Yeah? Remember, this is one of the animals that a lot of people steal. Yeah. So you keeping these animals requires a lot of protection to them, because it has a lot of demand. Any other people requires white meat, and one of the nearest white meat that somebody can get is the chicken. Yeah. That is the nearest, because almost all homestead in Kenya, they have these poultry farming guys. Yeah. So I was just talking about this poultry farming so that we can dive deep on how to know how to raise these chicken in to be a profitable venture. So I was talking about feeding. Yeah. Don't take the starter cramp, then you just bring there, you feed them maybe in improved kienyeji, you feed them to your layers. Okay, it will add weight very fast. Now the problem is, what are the other white meat? Yeah, the other white meat that we have, one of them is we have the fish. That is a white meat. I think Power wants to disappear. Yeah, so we have one of the white meat that we have we call that fish is a white meat. I think other people will just help me in identifying the white meat. I think even rabbit P2, it is a white meat. Pork, I'm not sure if it is a white meat, but I'm yet to know if pork is a white meat. So those are just white meat that people consume, which are very healthy. People call them healthy meat because it is even written in the Bible about this specific something about white meat. So I was handling something about feeding them. Yeah. So when you are just feeding them, when let's say when you have layers and the entire classes of these small birds, especially the chick, make sure you give something like if you want to give them starter crumb, yeah, just give them chick starter crumb with no that word of broilers, because once you put those broilers, remember the broilers, yeah, they have hormones to make those chicken to be broad, to expand, to grow very fast. And remember, when they grow very fast, in terms of maybe the improved kienyeji and the layers, it means their reproductive system won't be grown to that maturity. So when you are doing this thing, yeah, make sure that you observe the repercussions of feeding these. That's why a lot of people, they are complaining that I have my chicken, they don't lay egg. One of the problem is because you are giving this chicken broiler starter crumb without ad libitum, so that affects the production. Remember, when you have a lot of oil, a lot of fat in your body, yeah, it means that in terms of fertility reduces. So you get that it blocks a lot of places where maybe absorption of these nutrients can be. Even actually it blocks the hormone responsible for egg formation, so you won't get in terms of production will be very poor. So another thing is about, okay, I was talking about feeding your chicks, so just use chick mash. Apart from chick mash, just get what we call chick starter crumb. Just give your chicken, if there are layers, improved kienyeji or kienyeji, they will thrive very well. Another thing is about when you are transiting between kienyeji to the growers, make sure that you do that gradually. That means you don't just wake up one day, you take some feed, then that feed you just go feed this animal. You just put them to maybe your birds abruptly. Just do what we call transition gradually. Yeah? You just do it step by step. Can chicken go feral? Huh? Can chicken go feral? What is feral? Just explain to me, then I'll answer your question, because I don't understand what is feral. Feral. Just elaborate further, then I'll respond to it. Yeah. So I was talking about wild. Can chicken go wild? No, it is very hard. You know something like chicken, yeah. When it tries to be wild, you just kick it, because we have some instances that you get that, especially for kienyeji, you get that once they hatch, they don't want somebody to disturb them, even getting near their chicks. So it will even jump and scratch you and bite you. So yeah, they go wild. A lot of chicken I've seen, they are very wild. Even other chicken, when you try putting your finger to their where they stay, they just they tend to bite their finger. So that's one of the way that chicken can go wild. Yeah? I'm just waiting for other questions so that I can respond to them, and maybe we can talk some other things. Yeah. If you have any question about poultry farming, I can dive deep to that question so that I can respond to them. I'm told they can. Yeah, it is true. They can. They can go wild, because even when an eagle or a hawk want to take a chicken, you get that the chicken become very aggressive. It chases those hawk and they disappear. Even others beat some dogs around. They beat some other pets around when they have their chicks. Nobody jokes with chicken when it is having chicks. But for other class, maybe say the other chicken, they don't go wild, especially those that are brooded. Those are the pure kienyeji. Yeah. So, so guys, I was talking about this poultry farming, and I was talking. Okay, so for chick mash, you just feed chick mash from age of day 1 to around 2 months. When you are done with 2 months, you now go from 2 months to around 4 to 5 months, or when you see your first egg, this chicken should be fed on grass. Then afterwards, layers.